As much as you research, study, and prepare to start feeding your pet a homemade raw diet, odds are you're still going to encounter some surprises that you may not have expected. Now, if you're watching this video in fear that there are things that you need to prepare for before feeding raw, think again. These are actually some positive things nobody tells you when you start feeding your pet raw, and things that I only began to realize after I made the switch. Number 1, you develop a new type of bond with your pet. When you're feeding a commercial kibble, the process is pretty mundane. You go to the pet store, grab the bag, scoop the dry balls out, and drop them into the bowl. Then you simply walk away. The whole experience can feel artificial and detached, and there's no real connection between you and your pet. With feeding a homemade raw diet, though, feeding time is much more interactive. As a DIY raw feeder, you have to first seek out each muscle meat, organ meat, meaty bone, and meal additions to balance the diet, which are often scattered throughout different stores and markets. You carefully portion out each meat, assuring that the meal is balanced to your pet's nutritional needs. During feeding time, maybe you even have the urge to plate it nicely, but let's face it, that's just our own desire. But feeding a raw meal is just as creative. Maybe you're an owner that likes to feed during training sessions to amp your pet up with something that's high value. Maybe you like to hand feed to form a more primal bond by being the provider. Or perhaps you like to freeze the food in slow feeders or top bowls and feed it this way to promote mental stimulation. Feeding your pet a homemade diet is an entire ritual when you really think about it. And the love that you put into creating it is most definitely being exchanged between you and your pet. You're not just feeding your pet anymore, you're nourishing them. Number 2, you become a part of a community. If you ever fed kibble at any point, did you ever feel so passionate about these big commercial brands that you were compelled to share your love for it with others? Not likely. There's a major lack of passion when it comes to commercial pet food, and rarely does a kibble brand ignite enthusiasm and connect pet owners together. When it comes to making a homemade raw diet, though, there are so many aspects that bring owners together. Some owners may need a place to ask for advice, others may want to rightfully boast about their pet's transition success, others may want to discuss studies that they found on the topic of raw diets, and others just want a place to get inspired. When I entered the raw feeding world, I was floored with how selfless, helpful, and encouraging other raw feeders were. If it weren't for other experienced raw feeders, I may not be where I am today. When I thought the only main source of meat was at the grocery store, a raw feeder was there to give me advice on where to find offcuts. When I was worried about over or underfeeding certain nutrients, a raw feeder was there to explain how to calculate nutrient and caloric intakes. And when I encountered problems, a raw feeder was there to give me words of encouragement. We all collectively have the same goal in mind, and that is to not only feed our own pets a species-appropriate diet, but to teach and inspire others to do the same for their pets. Number 3, you may start to improve your own diet. Okay, it's actually a running joke that raw feeders spend so much time keeping their pets' meals healthy and balanced, but when it comes to their diet, they just pour some cereal. This may be you, and hey, it's sometimes been me too. But after doing some research on bioavailable nutrients found in whole foods, has adding new foods to your diet ever crossed your mind too? I personally never cared for meat too much. I do like it complementing some meals, but I was never one to go out and eat pork chops or steak. But after learning about all of the bioavailable vitamins and minerals in red meats, I myself started incorporating a little more into my diet. No, this doesn't mean I eat more burgers, I just try to opt for more local beef when I can for additional zinc, iron, and B vitamins, along with some dark leafy greens for some vitamin C, vitamin K, and fiber. Other days, I'll make some salmon for EPA and DHA, as well as vitamin D. Feeding my pets a whole food diet really got me thinking about what fresh whole foods could benefit us humans as well. So I try to implement what I've learned when I can. Even if you are a raw feeder that solely devotes their attention to their pet's diet and ignores their own, trust me, you're not alone. Watch this video to see the 5 things raw feeders do that you could also probably relate with.